So today is going to be about the multifidus. The multifidus confuses a lot of people. And a lot of times when we're trying to get our core activated, so a lot of people try to activate core, breathe in, clench, contract, but they end up just bearing down and they might flex the spine, which is that shape of a sit-up. The other problem is sometimes people are extending their spine and bearing down too much at the bottom of their rib cage. Your multifidus actually, so this is your back, your SI joints, those of you who know it. What I want you to do, I'll explain this to you and then I'll talk you through it while you lie down, because remember, when you are laying on the ground, your brain can absorb new material to move with, way more. And then once you sit up, you have gravity going up and down your spine. So you have to change that as opposed to laying then on knees, standing, turning. They're all very challenging to the brain. But if you can imagine where your SI joints are here, you're going to close them on so while you're sitting, you can try this as you're watching. As you're exhaling, you're going to feel your elevator close. Do not worry about imprint, neutral, anterior tilt, posterior pelvic tilt. Inhale, let it relax. Exhale, can you close the elevator door? Now the multifidus is pretty cool because it goes up in little chunks of about 2 or 3, depends on our anatomy, all the way up to the base of the skull. And you want to activate it going up. So you have actually 2 elevator shafts, but I'm going to talk like it's one. So on your next exhale, I want you to close the elevator door and see if you can pull it up, and it's the muscles closest to the spine, so not the big fatty chunks of meat that people have overdeveloped here. You want to pull the elevator door up to floor 1. Inhale, you can let it relax. Next exhale, close. See if you can pull the elevator up to floor 2. Then let it relax. Exhale again. See if you can pull it up to level 3 or floor 3. Notice where you get stuck, and you're going to do it to level 4, which should be hitting somewhere on the base of your spine or base of your rib cage here. People are very good at noticing a dead zone or a part that doesn't activate or it doesn't flow. Be aware of that because you probably already see physios for these things. So hopefully you're on your next one. Hopefully also you're hitting around floor number 7. And let's make your next exhale. Close the elevator doors and feel it up both sides of your spine, right close to each other, up to the base of your skull. Now, keep a bit of this traction pulling up on your inhale. As you exhale, breathe out, and can you still keep the height of your spine? A lot of times when people have trouble with this, they either they extend their spine bending backwards, or when they bear down and push their abdominals out, they flex their spine. So your multifidus looks a little like the stripes on the back of the shirt. So it's this pulling in and up. Now, every exercise requires that you can continue to pull in and up throughout the whole sequence. Inhale, can you keep it, or do you fall with the neck, the chest? Exhale up. It can be fatiguing if you haven't turned on the multifidus before. What is quite wild about turning on the multifidus, we'll try it lying on our back too, is it should engage the other side of your body. So a lot of people who cannot find pelvic floor and abdominal wall, if you turn on the multifidus, remember multifidus should co-contract together with the abs and the pelvic floor. So you should feel something else coming on. This is really up to you to regulate, to sense, to feel, grow the control. Because a lot of us that don't get this activity, that is generally the root of our problem for a long time to come. So the other part of with your back that helps with the multifidus is most of us have a hard time controlling the bottom of the spine where it meets the pelvis. This spot here at the bottom of the ribs is overly mobile. It flexes too much, it extends too much, it turns too much, and it bends too much. You need to find a counter spot counter movement, the muscles that help you. So if you want to do a side bend, there's something that helps you from just completely collapsing. Then if you want to turn, yes, you want to turn in your ribs, but sorry, something should try to stop you in your low waist so that you don't torque through the spine. The other one is the neck, the base of the neck, and the top of the neck. When you're not moving well, so if you don't activate the multifidus really well and get good timing, you overwork a lot of these other joints. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that works quite well with the multifidus. So let's see if we can do this together. Lie on your back, please. If you need something to support your head, do so. So you don't need to look at the screen at all. As you exhale again, breathe out. Feel the elevator doors close and see if you can pull it up towards the 8th floor. Inhale, keep a little bit of that alive. Keep the length. And exhale, see if you can find that again. Here's where your adjustments in Pilates are slow and controlled. So if you can't feel it, maybe tip your pelvis in a different direction a little bit and see if it helps both sides close, if it activates more. Remember, your breath work with this exhale and the multifidus activation should be stimulating the front of your body, the side of your body, and your pelvic floor. Now, the cool thing about this is it starts to help regulate pressure as well. So as you exhale, breathe out. Feel the essence of what an exhale gives you for that pressure, that control. You're a big tube. Now, the next time you want to do an exhale, find that tension in your entire waist and see if your leg opens by itself without twisting your back, taking the multifidus out of alignment, and then inhale back up. Exhale, please find the timing of your multifidus. Get it to activate first and then move your leg. So many times people open the leg as they're trying to find it and it's too far gone. So exhale, find your multifidus. Athletic training is you get better at it, quicker, stronger, and then open the thigh out to the side. So you're trying to find how to increase this tension within your stomach wall on the exhale, and then you open your leg out to the side with, and remember, this is about control. Did you control your spine or did your spine flop with you? Inhale, come back in. Exhale, it is absolutely important that you start to feel timing. Liven up the timing. Get it to activate, get it to feel strong, and then move. And then explore your range of motion. Can it go further, or when did you lose that stability control? Remember, bracing your spine isn't stability. Perfect. So this really helps a lot of people with degenerative hips, is getting this timing of pressure, coordination. Now grab your hip bones. And as you exhale, see if you can feel those muscles tighten. On the back of your waist is this little, they call it the abdominal triangle. It's where we love being pinched so that people can feel our love handles. As you inhale, can you feel a little gap in here? Maybe it's soft. When you exhale, it should firm up. Trick is, can you keep that on the inhale? Can it stay firm on the inhale, or does it become mush? Some of you are already very good at this, not the mush part, but the keeping on. Remember, control. Exercises that you can control this. You can control your tension. A lot of people I meet just can't find it, and they just keep the shoulders up, and they don't know how to keep the shoulders down and the tension in their sphere. Okay, so the next part of this one, take your right arm up to the ceiling, and as you reach your arm to the ceiling, there's little muscles that grab your spine and turn your chest to the left. Inhale, make sure you can keep some of these muscles engaged at all times, and then exhale, see if you can reach a little further. Does this help? Does this help, Heather? I think everyone else is hearing because they're all following. Okay. I'm not sure where that's going for you. Okay, now try your other arm. Reach your left arm to the ceiling. Yep. And I'll give you more cue signals there, Heather. As you reach your left arm to the ceiling, it should turn you more onto your right. Your heart starts to turn and face the right side of the room. Can you keep awareness and tension through your side abs? 5 breaths here. As you exhale, reach a little further. Does it drive your right chest into the floor a little more? Good, now take both arms up. You're not slamming the shoulders down your back. They are just not in your ears. Reach your arms to the ceiling so much it makes your ribs go into the mat. Good, now keep that feeling as you exhale. How far can you reach your arms, not letting the shoulders slide up to the ears? Keeping the tension through the waist and keeping that multifidus firing. Inhale, reach up to the ceiling. Here's where it's up to you for timing. Breathe out, multifidus timing. Your waist will be strong. Then you reach your arms only. Don't slide the shoulders. Don't pop. See if you can keep that tension on your side abs when you inhale. Check your body sometimes to make sure that this is nice and strong and tight. How far can you move your arms? You're challenging your range of motion with your activation. Good. Last set of rainbow arms. Good. And bring your hands all the way back down onto your pelvis. Breathing out completely. Now move whenever you like here. Just slowly see if your sacrum can touch the mat, not your low back as much as your sacrum, and then rock your sacrum off the floor. Your pubic bone goes through your inner thighs. So you're shifting your pelvis into the mat and away from the mat very slowly, trying to see if your hips will let go. Can you get flatter in the sacrum? Some people will find it easier to inhale and tilt their pelvis onto the floor. Remember, it's the sacrum, not your low back. When you cannot let your low back move, when you don't move your sacrum backwards onto the floor, you will compensate by going into the low back more. That is why we stress, don't push your low back to the floor, allow the sacrum to move for you. Okay, putting that together with your hip tuck, that slight posterior pelvic tilt and the pressure, drive your feet into the ground. Don't try to lift your bum. You pushing your feet into the ground and keeping this tubular alignment will take you to the spot you want to go. Do your hips give you that space? And then roll down sequentially. You want to learn how to put your spine down piece by piece. Some people just come up as a big unit. They don't know how to move in pieces. So your ribs stay down as long as you can as you slowly lift tailbone off. Take your time. Drive the feet into the floor. Let the hip flexors stretch. You can push your arms into the ground. This is not cheating. You can touch your waist. It helps you with your awareness. And then rolling down, can you keep the length in the spine? I think a couple of you will start to notice that you have a harder time controlling your multifidus as you have to move through flexion. Good. Remember, it's about pushing all of the foot into the floor. I can see some of you are rolling onto the outside of your feet. You want to see what your body will give you. What access do you have? What is it fighting against? Good, one more, hip roll. Take your time. As a human being that does exercise classes and as a human being that wants to walk well, learn to articulate one bone at a time. Perfect. Flip over to your hands and knees. It's all the same stuff that we were laying down. Then we just try to keep building. Push your hands into the floor, your face is up. So controlling the base of your neck is going to be really, really important. Stick your tailbone out, your sit bones widen. Don't clench your bum at all. Maybe hug your knees towards each other. They kind of roll in, but they don't really move very far. And then articulate slowly. Does your sacrum open? How much can you move your low back before you start to move your upper back? And spend a bit of time there. Breathe into the space between your shoulders, because a lot of us have a flat upper back. Can you hold the tension through the waist and then slowly start to uncurl? Bit by bit by bit by bit. Can you get the length in that spine again? Now we have a lot of moving parts. It is much, much harder. Sometimes move from the tail, sometimes move from the head if you want to play differently. But push your hands into the floor to make your ribs go up and back. Now be careful, you can keep your shoulders down under your ears because you'll always stretch the weakest part first. The one that doesn't have the power is going to overstretch. You can even try to open your chest out without overarching your low back. Perfect. One more. Now hold up in that angry cat shape. Shift a bit more weight onto your hands if you feel like that works for you. If it doesn't, stay back where you were. Now breathe out, keep your waist tight. You're going to lift one hand off the ground a couple of inches and see how much harder you have to work on the other side. This is why gravity is amazing. Can you do 5 strong breaths there? Put your hand down, reconnect and center. Don't be in a hurry to just switch. And then try the other side. If you don't feel your abdominals, this is a key. How do you get this sense? Maybe you're not pushing in. Maybe you're not breathing out. That's usually most people's problem, is they're not exhaling the air enough. Good. Can you do one more? But this time reach your hand about 30 degrees in front of you. How does reaching your hand help your abdominals work harder? 5 breaths there. Put your hand back down, regroup, feel the sense of 4 limbs touching, and then 5 breaths with the other hand. Miss HK, can you round your back? Your head has dropped. Yeah, the spine lost its control. There's no C curve anymore. Good. And then come all the way back down and sit back and stretch. Some of you prefer palms up to stretch behind the shoulders more. Perfect. Lying on your side now. Hold as much length as you can in your spine. So imagine you were lying against a wall. Some people actually do, when they do the videos on their own, lie against the wall to feel it. If you reach your knees forward a little, it might give you that slight posterior pelvic tilt you may need. But some of you, don't worry about the pelvic tilt. Just think of your multifidus. As you lie on your side, remember this lung takes more air down here. Do you feel how heavy you get on the inhale? Exhale, close the elevator doors up and see if you can feel that activation all the way up to the base of your skull. If you can't, readjust your head, readjust your ribs, readjust your pelvis so that you can feel activation. Muscles only turn on depending, position of the bone will depend a lot on how active that can be. The other part is how much brain connection does it have to that. Perfect. Take your hand on your top rib, the front, and you're going to turn this back on the exhale. Be very cognizant of your timing. Multifidus on your exhale. Once you start to feel multifidus turn on, then start to rotate. Did multifidus go all the way? Activation go up to your neck. Inhale to come back. So we kind of want to bounce back. Exhale, breathe out. Start to feel your ribs here, because some of you don't close them yet. Really breathe out. Feel how they get smaller. Inhale, you come back to center. Exhale, turn. You only have 3 more left. Don't waste your time. Do you control your hips? Do your knees stay still, or are they sliding? Now, if you're pulling with your shoulder to pull back, you're going to have a lot of trouble. Remember, it's an exhale and your breath takes you back. Your rib takes you back, and because of that, your shoulder moves. Good. Flip over to your other side, just 5 on each side. You can just roll over or flip over. So stay there for a moment. See if you can feel your alignment. Many of us have our head way too far forward. Notice the weight of your hips and your ribs and your shoulders. Perfect. Now make sure also that your shoulder isn't just disconnected because you're lying on the side. As you exhale, close up the multifidus. Activate it. Remember, it's closer to the spine than your erector muscles. Then start to turn, and you do that by pushing your rib back. Inhale, breathe into the entire spine, keeping that length. Exhale, breathe out, and turn. Elevate your second. Try to get the turn in your ribs. Your low back does not like turning. So you need something that counterbalances. That's why you keep your hips still. If your back hurts, you're trying to do everything with your back. Good. And next week, you're going to have a lot of fun with this. People are surprised at how hard it is to turn the ribs. Can you get better at closing, pulling back, and feeling that counter rotation? So something is keeping you from going to your max. I see a lot of people that are elbow trying to hit the ground. I'm worried about that one. Okay, since we're here, we're going to do the clam on this side. Breathing out, you've got this strong 2 in alignment. Now this one is get your pressure first. Get your activation of the multifidus. Then start to lift your knee up. How high can you lift your knee if this hip bone doesn't move at all? Inhale, try to keep some activation through that 2. Exhale, breathe out. Don't lift your leg at the same time you exhale, because if you can control the activation of your multifidus, getting faster, stronger, livelier, it will do it on its own. Hopefully when you walk, it just comes on when it's supposed to. Do 5 or 6 on this side, then flip over and do the other side. So in a live class, the biggest mistake I see people do is they lift at the exact time they start their exhale, and so their timing is kaput. Find that great length in your spine. Good. Now some of you, your right leg is moving, so it is dragging your pelvis with it. How do you turn your knee open, but keep it from pulling the hip back? There's something that helps your hips resist too much movement. There, that was nicer. And then what's your range of motion? Can you go further, or do you lose control? Ms. Dia, pause right there. Push your right hip forward. Whoa, slow. Good. Now this, we want to see better in a couple weeks. Like in 3 weeks, you want this to now just answer your beck and call. Pause. Can you push your right hip forward as you open that right knee? Perfect. Then roll over onto your back. Feet together. Again, I'm not too concerned with your imprint, your pelvic placement. Find your multifidus first and then open your knees. Some of you are quite flexible and your muscles don't lengthen, they just turn off. Really bad plan. You want to see if you can feel your inner thighs lengthen and not fight. And then that way they're on and they're ready to come back in. There's different reasons and different methods. Sometimes you want them to turn off completely. So first 4, you're going to open your inner thighs. Inner thigh stays on, and then it actually contracts a little stronger. So we call it muscles have a long orientation and then a short orientation. So, and resting is somewhere in the middle. That's why you just don't want to be relaxed the whole time. Yes. And now bring them back up. Feet are sit bone distance apart. Put your hands at the bottom of your bum and plug your legs into your hip socket. That should turn on all of the bum, but it doesn't push your leg bones out of the socket. Breathe out. Hands behind your head. Elbows reach up. That should give you the same activation as your arms forward. Now when you exhale, breathing out, you're still getting that length in your elevator and you're curling up a tiny bit. Inhale, can you keep the length in the spine, the heaviness in the pelvis? Exhale, curl up a little further once you've engaged your multifidus. The exercise here isn't in how high you can do your sit-up, it's about how long you can be. And I am shivering and quivering in this one. And roll back down so you can put more space between the spine. I know you've heard the cues before, but what we translate is sometimes very different. Breathe out, tuck your chin a little, and it's that length, which helps with the chin tuck. Everyone who's looking up to the ceiling has lost the ability to lengthen the spine. We're going to do 5 sets of 3, 4, 5. How many can you do in your sit-up? Remember, you're pulling long, then you do a little sit-up, then you see if you can pull longer. Can you sit up a little more, pull longer, sit up a little more? Do not pull on the head though. That's it. So a lot of you are actually moving way too much at the base of your neck for your sit-up. Remember, there's this ability to tuck your, yeah, that's better right there. Pause, Mr. Now lengthen your spine, especially the back of your skull to the room behind you. Yeah. So your sit-up isn't about how high you get, it's about how long you can be. Like a big, beautiful boat. Good, Miss T.S., tuck your chin a little. Just a little. There you go. Miss HK, that one, your arms are really wide and you, yeah, you had to kind of throw yourself into that one. Good. After your next set of that one, come back down and hopefully you're a little longer. Your ribs should be settling a little longer or a little heavier in the mat too. So as we build more resistance against gravity, it should get harder to maintain that. Exhale, breathe out. We're going to do one-legged leg lift. Does your leg feel very light because of the engagement in the multifidus? The key is that you're not tipping heavier on that hip as you lift your leg up. Inhale to put it down, engage the multifidus first. Some of you are going to take a little bit longer, then lift your leg up. So exhale as long as you can. Remember, the side abs stay tough too. Breathe out. Once you feel like you've got that multifidus acting and engaging, you've got to also plug your leg in the socket. Knee bent at 90 degrees will help you so you're not distracted. You're trying to move the leg in the socket, not the foot. The foot's going to come along for the ride. But the more you straighten your knee, the more distracting it becomes. DL, Miss DL, you've got too much knee movement. We just want to really pick the leg up here in the socket is what we're paying attention to. Yeah. Okay, hold one leg up. You need effort in plugging the other butt cheek heavy onto the floor. This one reaches forward a little bit. It activates something very deep. Hands behind your head. We're going to do 4 or 5 sit-ups with this leg up and 4 or 5 with the other one. Your number is up to you. Tuck that chin. Exhale, your butt cheeks are still reaching away from your head away from the butt cheek. Inhale, roll. Exhale, can you go a little higher? Now, some of you are very good at holding and building and building. Some of you will need to come back down and only do 1. So find what works best for you. Just carefully not straightening your leg more and more while you're there. Good. Feel the knee reaching to the ceiling, not your foot, but your kneecap. Careful you don't go into old habits of pulling on the head either. Jerky movements are not what we're looking for. So careful with that fast little bumpy if you had to adjust something that's really different. All right, once you've done both of those, feet on the ground, you're going to curl up again. Very slowly roll onto one lung and feel the other elbow reaching back. Now, a lot of times people pinch their neck. Stay out of that. Inhale, try to stay up. This is harder. Do you build endurance? Exhale, one elbow reaches up to the ceiling, just like our arm raise that we did earlier, and you roll onto one lung of it. Inhale, lengthen. 8. These are going to be tough. And if they're not tough, how did you just fall into this? Remember, turn more at your rib cage than your neck and your low back. The only reason your eyes are looking is to let the spine release its tension. If your chest stays there and you torque your head, we don't have the control we're looking for. This is your last one on the back, and then we turn around. Good, keep the hips heavy and watch the legs don't move. Remember, it's the counterbalance that is going to be so important in walking and running. Good, come up to seated when you're ready. If there was a glass of water, we hear that analogy all the time. This is so important. When I sit in physio offices, people just have a really hard time controlling the other part of their body. This is dissociation. If you want to walk well, swim well, you need to dissociate the head, the chest, and the pelvis. Golfers, anything like that. So a lot of times I still see a lot of rolling as opposed to that counterbalance. Too much movement down here. So what we're going to try in this next one is, like our cat-cow, this time you're going to reach out to the side. But it's got nothing to do with this arm, really. I want you to push on this one. So if I take my arm out of the equation, you're really pushing so much, you turn your chest. But the hips are locked into place because of where the legs are. So if you want to, you can keep your hand on your chest, or it just seems to be more fun. Push, push, push. How much pushing turns your chest? Try 5 on one side, 5 on the other. You could open up. If you can look at your hand and see it, you could keep reaching. This is more of a yoga move. But for many of us, we get lost and we just move the arm out of the socket. You did it. Yes. Keep your shoulders out of your ears and notice how hard you have to push into the floor to turn your body. You're trying to turn your entire chest. And notice where you're stuck. If something aggravates you, don't push further. Get your multifidus timing and then push, push. You are pushing the planet away from you. There we go. And do you get a little more range of motion with each one? All right, lying on your stomach. Take your hands forward, and if you can't reach all the way forward, they can still come down beside you at around 90 degrees. And when you pull on the floor, like you're trying to pull yourself forward, does it help you activate that multifidus muscle that runs up your spine again? The little segments. Ease off on your arms. And again, it's this little pull, and it kind of tightens your glutes a little bit. Don't squeeze your glutes to push you down into the floor, though. Those are called gripper people. We don't want to grip. That is actually a term. Now activate that multifidus and then lift one arm up, but this time don't turn your chest. The last exercise was a rotation. This one isn't. Inhale down. How long does your exhale last? Breathe out. Your front ribs are going down into your body. They're closing. The back ribs are trying to lengthen. You can reach your arm anywhere you like. It can be bent. It can be straight. What is the purpose? multifidus. How far can it go in the socket as you keep your chest centered? So some people really notice their multifidus doesn't fire at the top part of their shoulder blades. It doesn't fire at the bottom of the rib cage. They go straight into their erector spining. They jam their back up and it doesn't feel good. If it doesn't feel good, it's not a right exercise. It's not a right performance of it, probably. Good, now we'll come back down with both arms. When you lift both arms up, some of you don't have the range of motion in the shoulder, don't fight it, and look at the arms. If your elbows are higher than your wrists, you're trying too hard just to lift your arms. Lift your wrists up. As you exhale, reach your arms forward, try to keep that same multifidus timing. Inhale, pull back, and if you need to put your hands down to regroup, do so. Exhale, breathe out. Shoulder blades should not creep up to the ears, but you shouldn't be jamming them down. How far can you really tuck your elbows to your feet and feel what that does to your waist muscle? And then keep your waist muscles strong as you reach forward. A couple more of those and then they get pretty tiring. Yes, good. JM, can you get the shoulders to really give you some more motion? Yeah, look at your wrists. Yeah, look at your hands. Yeah, straight line. And then breathe out and just see if you can feel the arm moving in the socket. Can you feel the spot that gives you more range of motion? Perfect. Now, before you stretch the multifidus, I'd like you to do one plank if you don't mind. So this is a massive loading now. You could put your hands on the floor. If you can't do it here, put your hands on the wall. You can put your hands up on a chair and then extend your legs. Do you still lengthen the multifidus? You have gravity pulling on your spine so hard now. Perfect. Breathe. Is your head able to stay in alignment? That's good, TS. Are you sagging into your wrists because you can't push the floor away? You look fantastic at it. Now, not everyone has the shoulder flexibility, but if you can, push your hands into the floor to make your hips go back. Then push your feet into the ground and back to make you come back down. Your hips will lower, but they don't go into your low back. You can decompress your spine here so much. When you come back, are you moving at just the hip socket? And can you feel the multifidi firing free? Perfect. Your calf should stretch when you're in a plank. Try about 5 to 8 of those, working better alignment mechanics. Hey, that looks good for most of you already. HK, stay right there. HK, yeah, no. Try to push your chest further away from the ground. Way further, way further, way further. Right between the tank top. Get that tank top right up to the ceiling. There, now when you move through to down dog, you've got to try to keep that. Perfect. Yep, let those wrists shake out. Give your wrists a complete change of pace. Lying on one side, grab your hip bone here and feel the top crest. Bottom leg is bent for balance. Top leg is straight. You're looking for extension of the leg. So some of you from the angle of the camera, I can't tell if the angle is true. Is your hip open or is it slightly forward? If your leg is forward, we're in a flex. It's not an open position. The only reason you're doing imprint is to prevent your back from overarching and getting what your hip won't give you. Please remember, most of us on these screens do not have much hip extension. So plug your leg in the socket. Your tube is the same length on both sides. And last season, we talked a lot about the differences that we have between left and right. Lift your leg up in the socket as far as it can and just feel what starts to happen to this bone at the end range. Lower back down, try to keep that bone exactly where it is and lift, breathing. Good. Lower. Now I need you to feel your glutes and your hips, and make sure that you're not squeezing your glute, you're not jamming it up. It's because of keeping your leg in the socket. You have muscles activating. Could you do 8 lifts? Perfect. And can you increase your range of motion without it becoming something that your back is doing? That's the stability of Pilates. That's the stability of any exercise. That right waist will generally get shorter for people to cheat. Good. Don't turn over just yet. Nope, stay there with me. You're gonna keep your hand on your glute. Now, it's really important that you can stretch the bum muscle as it stays on and then pull it back. Do you get true hip extension in that socket? Let it give it to you. Flex your foot and go forward. So some of us, the bum just turns off and it doesn't do anything. Breathe out. Breathing out should give you a bit more in the hip socket. Inhale, does your glute stay on here? Don't squeeze it. Good. Up to 10. Some of you just won't have that tension won't stay there for that long. Then we'll flip over and do the leg lifts on one side and then kick it back. Perfect. RS, you have been keeping up with stuff. You're much stronger. This looks like your personality. I love it. I like when people's movements match how I see them. Well, how you come across. Grab your hip, see what it feels like, breathing, exhaling. Okay, now lifting the leg up. It's still plugged in the socket in that hip. And lower. Try to get the leg all the way down. Take your time. Because a lot of us have lost this ability to move the leg up in the socket, and some of us have lost it to move down. But we're trying to keep not the bum clenched, but the leg pulled in the socket. And you're moving your leg, not your low back. All right, DL, make sure that your hip is extended so that you actually have a straight line when you lift your leg up. Because some people don't have that space, so what they do is they come forward and they fake it with flexion always. There is no set number. Again, 10 is hard to maintain. You are not the exception to the rule. Then you're going to do the forward and back. The leg kick forward and then pull back. Keep it at hip height, because when you've lost this ability to lift your leg up, it's just going to get lower and lower. You want to stay here. Flex and kick, yeah. So I'm not after the pulsing today, that boom, boom, because I'm trying to see if your leg will actually give you more hip extension if you kindly coax it. Your leg should be feeling a little bit tired. Don't go too fast. Go as fast as you can without losing your movement. I'm curious if your foot can go a little further down, D in. Yeah. And you'll flip back over to your first side. This is now going to be a bent lever exercise. Hand on the floor or on your hip to sense what you're after. So you're pulling both legs in the socket. You may have to reach your knees forward a little. You may have to reach your bum down. We'll go over cues in the next few weeks for that kind of thing. Now pick your top leg up. So we still have our two. We have our multifidus. He's always trying to go on the exhale. Pick your top leg up and do a circle slowly. I'd like you to be aware of when did you pop your ribs? How far can your legs circle down and back? Exhale, get your multifidus first. The entire bottom side of your body. So this is my right side or my left side here. I want it to stay connected to the floor. I don't want the knee lifting just because of this. Those are bad neural connections. Don't train them. So play a little with what your leg feels like in the socket as you move it and as you breathe. So as you move it around, is it moving in the socket, or does it keep pinching and bumping one end of the cup of your hip socket, your acetabulum? That's why if you can keep your pelvis stable, you'll get more out of it. Stay on that side, don't change. So this is DD. I am very curious about you. Hip extension again, meaning that long line. You're going to lift your leg up, not hard, we've already done that. But I'd like you to try to use your inner thigh way, way up there and see if your knee can drop without moving that hip bone. Inhale to lift up. Exhale, can you find that inner thigh? Or now this inner thigh actually has to tighten up to bring the leg down. This HK, your leg is in front of you, you have a flexed hip again. Yes. So basically this line here with your knee is the same one if you were lying on the floor. Are you a straight line from knee to hip bone to rib? Try about 8 to 10. Do you get any better coordinated? Do you get any better range of motion? Good, so TS, you're not getting down either, you're just going forward. Good, flip to your other side when you're done, yes. So the other thing is, if you're not very good at coordinating muscles, you just turn them off. You just let it go to move. Then you're using soft tissues. A lot of people who can't find that, they just kind of drop their leg. You want to be loosely connected. This is just loose, not connected at all. It's this pulling, feeling your inner thigh, but you can't just fight with your outer hip and your inner thigh. The outer hip needs to let go a little, like the IT band that some of you know, the TFL. Your psoas. So you're going to do circles first. Get a sense. This is harder because your hip bone wants to move around a lot of places. Where's your counter action? You don't just want to slam your leg back. You don't want to stay in flexion. How do you get movement, but something keeps you from being wild and crazy in your movement? Good. Now here's that other thing, going back to last season. Some of you, your right hip, DT, is moving with your leg. It's not able to. How do you pull your left hip back to keep your right hip where it was? So you need more left pulling back so that that right hip stays forward. Good. RS, that one looks, yeah, you get it there. Good. Yep. That's right. Then do the lift and lower. Good. JM, your camera moved a little bit. Can you get it to come back down again? Wave a little. And then bring your hand down. Will it follow you? Okay. Just make sure you're not going into hip extension on your top leg. Or hip flexion, sorry. Oh, Ms. DL, go slow. Bend your knee a little bit. Bend your knee, get that hamstring. That's it. Keep your leg in the socket and move it down with your inner thigh. You're straightening it. You're going into your quads over and over and over. Yeah, good, good. Make this about your inner thigh. Then you don't have to do anything with those muscles. Okay. Many of you brought your ball today, so put it back between your inner thighs. So we have hip flexion here when your hip bone and your thigh bone are closer to each other. Could you find that way? You're just holding the ball, you're not squeezing it. Maybe you could sense a bit more of your inner thighs, but we won't go over that too much. Multifidus, can you get hip extension and prevent your back from going into any more of an arc and then lower back down in one solid unit? This is actually quite complicated because a lot of us that are global movers and don't control pieces, we just move in a big, we just move like a big cookie. It's not easy for us to move a piece, which also means it's harder for us to control the pieces that are moving too much. Where's the weight on your feet? Can you get that multifidus to fire? And then drive your feet down. And then how much more do your hips give you in that last bit of your exhale? The bottom of your glutes are going to feel this just because of the motion. DD, you should be able to get a little higher. I'm going to just call you DD because it rolls off the tongue easier. HK, can you, with your IT band and your outer thighs, can you disengage them enough to come up a little higher? But don't force it through your low back. That looks simpler. Okay, now hold up on your next one. Everybody hold up and don't turn sideways. There's nothing to look sideways for. Can you breathe out so much you feel more power? Yeah, there you go. Now, when you get that tube in your body, feeling that tension, your hips release some tension. Do you go a little higher? Don't force it. Do your hips give you a little more? Stay there and control it on the next inhale. Good, and exhale, breathe out. Get that tension in your waist. Feel your multifidus, and then see if your hip socket, where your leg attaches inside your pelvis, if it gives you a bit more space to lift up. Then we'll do one more. Don't force it because your bones will pop out of place. They really will. Keep your ribs down and see if driving your feet into the ground gives you a bit more height. Yes, there you go. Come down rolling or dropping, it's up to you. You guys look pretty good with that. Good. Now we'll put the ball behind your back if you've got it. It's just changing gravity, that's all. Looks like everyone's got one. So you're already in a little bit of flexion, but be wary of over flexing right at the bottom. Ouch, that doesn't even feel good. Right at the bottom ribs, we tend to bend too much. We tend to move way too much at the sacrum, sometimes in the wrong direction, just to get up. So see if you can feel that length. What does a straight spine feel like when you're on the ball? Find that length of the inhale, exhale, breathe out. See if you can curl up a little, don't force it. Inhale, it's the length. Exhale, maybe your elbows reach a little more. That might activate your serratus a tad bit. Good, we're gonna come a little higher, just a tad. Now maintain that as you slowly turn your chest to the right, remembering your hips need to counterbalance, not your back. Inhale, center, take your time, exhale. Reach one arm forward to help you turn your sternum. Keep going with this. This will be quite exhausting. And check out your knees, because if they're wobbling, you're having a hard time with your stabilization. You're having a hard time with your exhale. Someone who just went through a bit of depression this past year was that their counselor said most people have to learn how to breathe. There aren't many good breathers on the planet. So while you're exercising, you have a lot of gravitational force. How are you feeling? Are you stressed from the day? Good. You're loading gravity through your spine in a different way. Can you stay long, or does it compress and get into all these pinchy feelings? You guys look fantastic. Good. Take a break when you need one. You can even fold over the ball if you need to. Roll onto your side with the ball under your ribs. Hand under your head should feel comfortable for this one. Now this depends a lot on the size of your ball, the size of your waist, the ribs, and how you're starting, but let's give this a try. Hand on the top rib if possible, elbow up to the ceiling. If it goes back, it can pull you into different places. But as you exhale, breathe out. Out is tightening this and pushing it down into the ball. So feel the pressure pushing into the ball from this side. Ease off. Exhale, multifidus. Multifidus again, fires up. Try not to just expand in between. There's a relaxed feeling. And then remember, your muscles contract smaller than their relaxed state. And then when you stretch muscles, they're supposed to get longer. Can you orientate a muscle longer without it just being floppy and disengaged? Okay, so feel this. Feel what you're doing. Get rid of the ball and flip over to the other side. You have an arm that's going to push into the floor. You have a waist that's going to lift up because you can contract, and you, very importantly, push your legs down. I see a lot of people just lean into their shoulder and pull up with their back. Where's your head? Hand on your waist. Exhale. As you exhale, your arms and your legs should feel, sorry, arm and leg should feel heavier in the ground. Pull up and lift. Now be honest, the person whose knee lifts, this is, your body is not giving you any other shape, any other ability. It still just does one thing. Lower back down. Relax as much as you want, but remember, athleticism is, you can relax and become gushy, but then you pull it together and you get up quick. If you're doing this until your neck hurts, you're in the wrong spot. Your head's not in control. You're not using your multifidus. You should get really tired in your arm. You're pushing. How long can your exhale last? Then we'll do the ball under this rib cage. Do as many as you can. Good. Grab this rib. So this will build on next week with, are you actually able to suck your diaphragm up in here? So push down in the ball. Notice how different your sides feel. Ease off. There's something about pushing and then letting go, because this ball is trying to push you back. Good. Careful your elbows not pulling your neck out of alignment. Feel this. This is your last time. Feel this pushing down into the ball. Get rid of it again. Flip to your other side. Your head is still part of your control, pulling it back. Good. Ms. DL, your elbow back behind you is going to make things a little wonky. So yeah, you want to get rid of that arm behind you now. When you're ready, legs push down, top one, HK, this is yours. Top leg needs to push into bottom leg needs to push down, and then pulling up on your waist. As you push into your limbs, keep going with this one. Can you get out 8? Easy. And start to notice, oh, I don't push my inner thighs together. I don't push my leg down. I'm tightening my back, erectors, not your multifidi. Your multifidi went off when I stopped cueing it. Does it fire? You got two sides of that spine that liven up and they feel good. They don't feel cranky and rigid. And timing. You want the muscles to work well, whether you're going fast or slow. Some of us can only work slow. Some of us work fast, but we sometimes turn off what we need. Perfect. Now, if you've got it left in your wrist, again, you want to feel your entire body connect when you're in a plank. So do your multifidus muscles work for this one. Then you're going to roll onto your feet. If you want, just hold a side plank if you like, or you can roll. Do you turn? Can you pull up on your waist? Reach your arm up, but now control it. Don't throw it behind you. Lift your hips a little as you come through center, and then flip your feet and your pelvis push into the floor. Could you slowly find your way through 8 of these? Turn your feet. Remember, you're pushing them into the ground like we do with our other side plank. You're lifting your waist and you're pushing. Too often people just drop their hand, turn. They don't really twist their feet. It is a whole body exercise. Turn your chest directly over your shoulder. Reach the other arm up. DL, yep, now turn your chest. You've just got your neck and your arm wrenched behind you. Good. You're very strong, RS. Good. HK, you've got a little of this going on when you're reaching. Yeah. Good. And then turn your elbows in if possible. Tuck your chin, sit back. Not just relaxing, but trying to tuck your tailbone down and creating more space under there. So lift your belly up so you can stretch your low back even more. Yes, there you go. The closer your elbows are, the deeper the stretch is going to be. Good, one more breath. TS, your palms up might feel better. come all the way back onto your spine. So that side plank feeling, does it give you the same sensation here? It should be easier to tighten your sideways with that. Let's stretch one leg up to the ceiling, but it reaches so that you don't sink onto that hip into the ground. Flex or point, it's up to you, but I want you to notice that think about walking is usually what we're after. It's when your foot's in front of you, you're doing a flexion. And then when you go back down, you're trying to go through that pointed toe, but it's not, we don't have gravity, so it's kind of not important. Reach up, exhale, multifidus first. Feel your sides engage. Lower back down. Is your hip socket able to stay centered? Play with your foot alignment. Maybe moving your ankle just really takes things off kilter for you. 10 per leg. Your hip should not be killing you on the front because the whole point of this is exhaling so that you can reduce the pressure within the hip socket. Get your calf stretched first, then your hamstring. Yeah, that's why your foot flexion is so important. Yeah, HK, keep that foot flexed as long as you can actually. So that's not just your toes, it's the whole foot. Nice. JM, I'd relax your toes a bit more and pull the top of your foot towards you. So DL, this will help with your SI joint too. There you go. And then you've got one more to finish off this segment if you're up for it. This leg up, reaching, try to keep that back stable. Arms can go out to the side if you like for more stability. If you've got the flexibility, this leg long will help. Just circle around. Always come back and find out where you started. Let's do 4 in each direction on each leg. Now, some of you can go faster, some of you can go further, some of you can go lower. Are you able to get a stretch in one spot? As you cross over your outside hip stretches. If you've got pinching, your timing is off. Your leg is not in the socket. 4 per side. And then when you're done, sorry, 4 per direction each side. So there's benefits to speed no matter what speed you do. Just can you do different speeds? Can you do different ranges? And be honest when you go, oh, that was my back. I'm moving my leg with my back. Let's not do that again. When you're done that, we'll come up for mermaid stretches to finish off the class. Could you sit with your legs pretzeled 90-90 off to the side? And when you come up and over, this is really important. You're not going as far as you can. You're countering something on that top side and trying to lift from the bottom. So we're lifting up. Remember that feeling on that side plank? Slowly turn your chest, but not your hips. Keep your arm parallel to the floor again. Keep pushing into the ground. There's a whole bunch of that today too. But push to turn your chest back to center and up. Oh, that was gorgeous. Want to try that again? So use your arm to lift up. Now carefully don't sink on your shoulder. You're pushing yourself onto your other side. I'm pushing myself to the stripe side. Slowly turn your ribs, but not your whole pelvis. Keep pushing, reach the arm, good. Back to center and up. Switching sides. Mr. D, you could do this sitting on a table or a chair too. If you sit on that ottoman, it'll lock your pelvis in place. Reach. Use your arm to keep the engagement and the pushing over to the opposite hip. Side and up. Good. Pull your head back and watch. Please don't start the stretch like this. It's just a lot of jamming. Lifting up through this side. How much can you lift here by pushing into the ground, stretching, and then turning without your pelvis going with you? Nice. Side and up. Hope you have a new appreciation for multifidus Yes, the back and all the lovely moving parts. See you next time.